I'm Stuart Cameron. Welcome to Friday's Look at Rugby. Now, last week the weather put paid to a number of games, with Gala the only team from the Borders in the Premiership getting to play. They went up to Stirling County and turned round a big defeat against the same team 7 days earlier to win 21-16 and retain their fourth place in the table. In National League One, Peebles were outpointed at a snowy and windy Geights by GHA, while Dundee fought off the challenge of Kelso. In today's programme, I'm joined by David Ferguson from the Daily Record Rugby Show to talk about the big game in the Borders tomorrow at the Greenyards, the derby in the Premiership between Melrose and Hawick. Hawick on the one side, who have won 8 of their last 9 games in all competitions. Melrose have won their last 5 Premiership games. It's all set up for a cracker.
Yes, it is. I saw Hawick a couple of weeks ago against Edinburgh Accies up in Edinburgh in the Cup, and they were very impressive going forward. Not as impressive on the back foot, I have to say. They were a little bit slack in defence, and Accies scored some good tries, which made for a fantastic game. So I'm sure Melrose will have spotted that with Hawick, but I've been very impressed with Hawick, how Nicky Walker has started to get them to play with a bit of freedom, and also the balance with up front. Roddy Deans is obviously there coaching the pack, and I think across the field as well. And Roddy's a very clever coach. I've thought that of him for a long time. He's a clever player, and you can see him and Nicky are their thinking coming through in the Hawick team. So I think that'll be a cracker. And you know they're up for a game against Melrose. They always are. I expect another cracker with what we're seeing from Melrose at the moment as well.
And because both sets of backs are, well, I wouldn't say world-class. Some of them could be world-class, you could certainly say, in the future. But certainly as far as international class, I would say there's quite a few could step up.
Yeah, I mean, Rory Hutton, this is the type of game he loves. And it's a chance for him to show that he is a bit of a cut above. I was really disappointed he never made it as a pro. But it takes lots to make it as a professional. It's not that simple. And he didn't make that step up for long. But there's no doubt he's a quality player. And, Rory Hutton has played sevens for Scotland. So, and right across the back lines, you've got some great players in both sides. So the key obviously for both sides will be getting the ball to them and seeing who dominates up front, who takes it on, because it's the same mistakes that are often made when you've got players like that at any level, where you look to move the ball wide before you've actually got any momentum or going forward, and then you become pretty easy to pick off. So there's a challenge up front and there's a challenge out the back.
And who do you think's going to win that challenge?
Well, you'd have to fancy Melrose for their Premiership form, and when you look at the results and who they've been playing, and some of the quality of their performances, and they're strong, they've been over the course a number of times. Hawick are still coming back up, as it were. They've had the ping pong with Division 2 and 1, so they're still learning a bit, still learning with Nicky Walker. But this is a game for them. They're on a run. Their confidence is high. You'd hope they'll have a big crowd across from Hawick that will fill that far side at the Greenyards. And that can make a big difference. If that keeps that Hawick team going through the game, and you've got some great characters in that team that will do that as well, then I think it could be a very close finish.
And a man who's been a revelation really this season, Bruce McNeil, who's played in the front row, he's played in the second row, and currently number 8. Where do you see his position? Because he seems to just adapt anywhere. Yeah, I mean, he's a great back rower when you get a lot out of him. If he's playing, if he's fit, and he's able to play every week. Back row is fantastic to see him coming off there. He's one of these players that just makes ground. He just makes the right decision more often than not. And so it doesn't matter where he plays, he's invaluable to Hawick in that pack. But he also talks a lot. If you hear him from the side of the pitch, he's always telling the players what to do, telling them where to go, picking them up, driving them on. And from that point of view, he's been a great player for Hawick, a fantastic servant for Hawick. He's also a wind-up merchant. So is Graham Dodds. The two of them together, can't wait.
Oh yeah, I mean they are great, and the two of them. Graham Dodds is another who I think in his early part of his career he could have gone higher, could have gone further. He had the quality, he had the talent, but as I say, it takes a lot. It takes a bit of luck sometimes to be in the right place at the right time. But that's where people talk about the Scottish club game, and we talk about the professionals as if the professionals is just everything that exists in Scottish rugby, and the club game has died a death. And there's lots of people willing to tell you that. You go out and watch that game this weekend with some of these characters we've talked about. Watch how they play, watch the commitment they put in, the drive, the fact that they will be up to really tear lumps out of each other this weekend. and then come off at the end and celebrate and shake hands with pints in the club rooms, and that's the way it should be. That's Scottish rugby.
It's great box office.
It is, and I enjoy watching that, to be honest, more than sometimes watching Edinburgh and Glasgow play. And I have to be honest, you'll go. There's obviously a fantastic quality at pro level, and they're playing a higher level of game, no doubt about that. But for a good box office, for good excitement, seeing players go against each other where still it matters. Bruce McNeill, okay, he came from south of Scotland, the other side of the south of Scotland to Hawick, but he came across, he's put his body in the line for Hawick so many times. Graham Dodd has always done that for Melrose. There's lots of characters in both of these teams where this really matters this weekend, and that's what I enjoy watching.
And of course, Hawick going for the double, having won the last game at Mansfield Park 21-20. Also a Booker Border League match that was, which means they're in, you could say, pole position. They've still got to play Gala, of course, at Netherdale, but their tails will be up for that one. And of course, they have beaten Gala already at Netherdale earlier in the season, so they're just...
You don't have to remind the Gala supporters of that, no, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, that all adds up to a lot that's going on. There's no doubt. It's, there are points at stake, and that helps, but I don't think these players need much motivation for this sort of game.
Who's going to win?
I could stand here and I could make a case for Hawick. No trouble at all with the way they're finishing and the way they're moving the ball. And if you've got Rory Hutton directing things, I can see that happening. I can just as easily see Melrose winning this weekend. And I've been to so many games between these two teams over the past couple of 2 or 3 decades, where I've gone in there thinking this is what's going to happen, and it's been the total reverse. So I've stopped making predictions on these games a long time ago. Yeah, I just look forward to it. I mean, hopefully both teams play. Hopefully there's good forward play and they move the ball, because both teams want to. So, and I want Hawick particularly, the way I saw them play a couple of weeks ago in Edinburgh, I want them to stick to that. I hope they stick to that value of little chips and chases. There was a great try scored. Scott McLeod kicked the ball wide for John Coots to go in and pick up. That kind of rugby. That's what supporters want to see, and I know that's what players like to be part of. So hopefully they both throw off the shackles a bit and don't worry so much about what the coach says in the dressing room beforehand. Just go out and play.
And the big concern, I think, for Hawick supporters has been their final 20 minutes of a game, because we've seen so many times this season other teams coming back at them when really they should have been finishing games off. That
goes back to, I think, what I was saying earlier, Stuart, about them still developing, still learning, developing their game, learning what Nicky Walker and Roddy Dean's want of them. A few players there that have, that have come into the team this year, and it's been mixed a bit. And that's all that's about. It's the belief. It's having that belief to keep going and the confidence to keep going. This game, there's no doubt, is that you don't win a game against Melrose after an hour. That doesn't happen. So they've got to be prepared to play 80 minutes. And it's the same with Melrose. They know that. So I don't think that'll be a worry for them this weekend.
Brief word down the road at 3 o'clock. Of course, Melrose game is at a 2 o'clock kick-off. 3 o'clock, it's at Netherdale, a game that will definitely go ahead because of the undersoil heating, regardless. Gala against Edinburgh Accies. Gala at last getting that win. A smile on your face there. But they're playing Edinburgh Accies, who were bottom, but they beat Ayr last week.
Yeah, they beat Ayr. I mean, it's funny, but 2 weeks ago, as I say, I was watching Hawick against Edinburgh Accies at Rayburn Place, and I was listening to Phil Leck, the Edinburgh Accies coach now, talking to his players, and he just said to them, look, cup's over. That's finished. Now we focus on the league, and we really have to focus on the league because we're a good enough team to drive up through these positions and get ourselves up the league. And, last week, I don't know if I believed him, to be honest, listening to him saying that. I felt a coach had to say that. But against Ayr, that was a surprise. They will certainly look to do that. They're looking to knock somebody off every week and work their way back up the league. So that result against Ayr was a warning for Gala. I'm delighted to see Gala turn the corner last week. I think that's happened. That putting to bed that horrendous result against Stirling at Netherdale by beating them again, beating them away, is great for the belief, I think, for Gala. They've had problems. We know the problems that Gala have had this season with injuries, young players playing. They just need time as well. But yeah, it's a big game for them, but I can see Gala winning this one.
David Ferguson, and of course that's our featured game on Saturday Scoreboard Live tomorrow afternoon from 2 p.m. on Radio Borders with Stuart McFarlane and Dale Clancy, your commentary team. In the other Premiership games, it's Ayr against Boroughmuir, Glasgow Hawks v Stirling and Heriots take on Curry. Turning to the National League Division 1, and Selkirk aim for 15 out of 15 at home to Stewart's Melville in what should be a very tough encounter. Jed Forest host Aberdeen Grammar and Kelso are at home to Watsonians, while Peebles go to Hillhead Jordan Hill, who are much stronger at home despite still having no points to show for their season so far. Well, in other games locally, BT National League 3, Hawick YM at home to Dumfries. In BT East League 1, it's Dalkeith against Duns, Dunbar against Hawick Lindeen, Hawick Quins take on Linlithgow, Langham against North Berwick, and Portobello against Berwick. East League 2, St Boswell's against Earlston in another derby, and in East League 3, Bowness take on Gala YM. So weather permitting, plenty of rugby for you tomorrow. But that's it for your Rugby Tonight.